From 3 until 4 here at 93.1 and out there on the stream at talklegends.com. It's about that time on a Monday morning when we go and talk some real estate. Brent Ward is with us with the Central West Tennessee Association of Realtors. Almost pulled a march.
Cleve.
On
I was
you
gonna say
there.
I was only gone a week, Jimmy, and you already forgot where I came from.
Well, I have to give him his due. He got it right every time he said it last week. He was sitting in for you, and now I can't do it.
Well, it is. Somebody has to do it. It's what I think. It's kind of the same thing they say about losing weight. When somebody loses weight, somebody else puts it on someplace else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if that's the case, I'm supplying the world. Me and my keto diet kind of parted ways there
Oh,
for
really?
a little while.
Okay.
Yeah. Not only did I fall off the wagon, but the horses backed over me. So I got to get back on that. And this brisket is definitely that's a keto thing right there.
It is. Yeah.
Man.
I mean, the protein in the meats that's a good thing. 'Cause I've lost about 25 pounds, I guess, over the last couple of months.
Well,
so.
See, I'm proving the point. I've gained some of mine back. So
I'm giving
I got part
it to
of
you.
yours.
I'm sorry. I'm
I would
giving
say
it away.
I appreciate it, but I don't.
I'm just giving it away to whoever will take it. I don't care who takes it. That's one of the things. It doesn't matter to me who takes it.
It's like Dan Morris says, we got a new crop of weeds over at Morris Landscape and Landscape and Nursery. He said, y'all come pick some. And it's funny, but he'd be more than happy you to come pick
he
his
would
weeds
be.
for him.
Exactly.
What's going on in the well? First of all, we missed you last week. And, Cleve was here, and the incoming and outgoing presidents of the CWTAR for the next year.
That's right.
Both were here, and great information. It was fun to have them on at the same time.
Well, I know Cleve really wanted to have them on the show the last time he had to substitute for me, but they just happened to be the same place I was. So this one just happened to be a vacation for me and my family, and that was a good opportunity to bring them in. And according to what you said, the show went great. I haven't had a chance to go in and take a look at it, but
it's still out there on Facebook. And speaking of which, Paul Schulze is in the booth back there. Let's get Paul to show the hand back there. Let everybody know he's working. Just in case. There he is. There he is.
There's
elbow
the
and
hand.
all the way to the elbow this time. Thank you, Paul. Paul with Worthy Road Studios and does a lot of production work around Jackson and West Tennessee. A lot of the things that you see and take for granted on your television are coming by the good graces of Paul Schulze and his crew. He does a great job. Does a great job for us here, especially getting this on the CWTAR Facebook page.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that because we post it out on our public page and put it on our YouTube channel all the time. So we definitely appreciate that. Good opportunity for people to go back in and listen to things that they didn't hear when we were on there before. Like me, I'll listen to it this afternoon when I'm sitting in the office.
Absolutely.
I'll turn it on and listen to see how Monday's show went, which I'm sure was just fine.
Right, and you'll listen to today's show and you'll say to yourself, why did I say that?
No, actually, you know what? I have learned. I used to hear that from people all the time. Don't ever go back and listen. Don't watch what you've done. I did at the very beginning. I used to watch because, I shake my legs. I move around a lot. My hands move a lot. My wife was making fun of me all week long while we were in Florida about me using my hands. She said, I never really noticed it until this week. Did you really use your hands a lot? And here I am using them right now. And there they go. Yeah, so I don't go back and listen and watch. I figure it's over. It's done. Anybody else wants to watch it, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Hey, it is what it is. And we have a good time doing this.
We do.
We've been doing this for quite some time now, several months. I don't even remember exactly when we started, but a lot of things we've been talking about as far as real estate in Jackson and West Tennessee market. Number one, it's a good market.
It is.
And
still.
Number two is things are selling rather quickly right now because we're still in a buyer's market situation, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in a seller's market.
I'm sorry.
Seller's
market situation.
That's okay. You're an appraiser. It's okay.
Yeah, that's true. I should know that, right? No, there are a couple of houses that have been for sale in my neighborhood from various realtors that are members of your group, of course. But I've been amazed. I see the sign go up, and then it's like, man, already the sold sign is on there, or pending sign is on there. So things must be still moving pretty rapidly.
They are still moving right along at a pretty good pace. And of course, naturally, as we've talked about a million times on the show, is it's a seller's market because of inventory is just still kind of low right now. And but that's one of the things I was going to talk about today was getting your house ready to go. It's summertime. Of course, we're summer has now hit. I think it hit last Friday.
Yeah,
I think
20
it was
21st.
or 2
Yeah,
Fridays
2
ago.
Fridays ago,
2
yeah.
Fridays ago, because it was right before we got ready to head out of town.
Yep.
And so this is the time to sell. Spring's kind of starts it, and then summer is the key months. Everybody's out of school. People are traveling. This is a good time for people to move.
True.
And but if you got them priced right and you've got them looking right, boy, you can sell them quick.
Right. Is new construction catching up any, or is it pretty much build one, sell one?
Pretty much you build one, sell one, or you sell them before they ever get built, which means you're already behind.
True.
As you're getting going, because there's no new going up that hasn't already been sold when it's being built. All you can do is show it to somebody else, say I'm building 2 more like this on these lots, and the biggest problem I think they run into is there's a new development going on out on Ashport Road, and it was actually supposed to be developed and ready to be built on in the spring of this year. So it was supposed to be developed last year.
Right.
But we had so much rain at the tail end of last year, it was not going to happen.
Yeah.
And they still don't have it quite ready yet. They've been working on it diligently.
Yeah.
But, and I think a lot of people really don't take that into consideration on how much work has to go into just the start of it.
Oh, yeah.
Just to develop a subdivision and the cost that's involved with that. Because you hear people talk about, oh my gosh, the lots are so expensive. Well, you got to think about what all took place to get to that point.
Yeah.
It had to be graded. It had to have all the utilities run. You've got curbs and street work and everything else that has to be done before you even start putting the foundation for a house down.
And you have to meet all the codes and stuff that go with it, which
and they change
added cost
all the time.
Yep, they do. Absolutely.
We talk about home inspections on here a lot, and that's one of the things that always is mentioned in a home inspection is they'll tell you you'll see things on your home inspection that aren't up to code for today's code, but they were up to code at the time the house was built.
True.
And you can't, from a home inspection, you can't ask for those things to be done. You can ask for it, but they don't have to do it because it was code at the time the house was built.
Right.
And I'm trying to think, one of the electrical things, actually there's several things I've run into over the years selling real estate that people have never heard of. And I'm trying to think of the one, you probably know the name of it, where you've got your 2 power lines that run through the knobs. And I can't think of the
knob and tube.
Knob and tube. There you go.
Yeah.
When people see that just freaks them out because they've never seen anything like that before. Of course, that's what old. Like what
30s, 20s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I knew it was way on back there. And then I saw a water heating system once in the attic. Okay, that actually had tubes that ran over the ceiling. It was what they call
radiant heat.
Radiant heat.
Well, it is.
It's
but
not
it
radiator, but it's radiant heat.
Yeah.
It's in the ceilings versus
the
having
hot water runs through the pipes. Yeah.
I've only seen one of those in the house, and I had to call an appraiser friend of mine and say, "What in the world am I looking at?"
That's rare.
It's very rare.
That's rare.
But that's old.
Yeah.
And it was in absolute perfect condition. Looked like it was put in yesterday.
Yeah.
And they had just taken good care of it. So, you run into all kinds of interesting stuff out there.
Yeah, of course, John Allen does his show with us on Thursday.
Yes.
And he is a restoration contractor. And you're talking about running into some strange-looking things.
I'm going to get him on the show one of these days. I just haven't had a chance to call him yet, but to have him come on and talk about doing restorations and how does that play into, the kind of what we were doing before I left to go out of town. We talked to appraiser, had him on talking about doing updates to your house and how does that work. And then we had the Aloha Pools come in and talk about adding pools, spa. Actually, we never even got around to talking about spas because there's so many questions about pools.
It's true.
Yeah. So, all those things kind of play into each other as far as updates to your property and where they go and trying to get it ready to go, which is kind of where we led off to with today's show.
Yeah.
But, back into the new construction. It's not caught up yet. It'll catch there one of these days.
Yeah.
But everything that's being built is being sold before they can even get it going because I've called several, as I've mentioned, my wife and I on Sunday sometimes will drive through new subdivisions just to kind of see what's going on and try to keep up with it. And I'll call the realtor and ask if it's okay if I go in. Since I'm not actually a realtor anymore, I can't just go in. So I always ask for permission first before I go in. And but every house we go look at, it's already all been sold.
Man,
just the way it is.
That's not a bad way if you have any creativity or any forethought at all as far as decorating and what you want. It's not a bad way to buy a house because you can get in there if you go negotiate the deal and you cut the deal and they're in the framing. They got the sticks up and the roof's on, and that's about it. You get to make all those other decisions within the parameters of that sale price.
You do. And that's actually, you hear all the time that building a house is stressful, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing, and that's why we do so well with our builders, because so many of our builders, they've already taken care of all that. They've got 3 types of interior doors to choose from. They got 3 types of counters to choose from.
Right.
They got 12 different countertop colors to choose from. So they've already got that stuff ready to go. You just have to go into their office with your realtor and sit down and pick out what you want, and they'll help you with that. And they've done so many of these. They know what goes together, and they know what matches. And it just makes it takes a lot of the stress out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not just open to the world, like if you're building a house from the ground up from scratch and you're having to go out and pick everything out.
We never did that. We came real close at one time. We had bought a lot. In fact, we bought a lot twice, and then wound up selling the lot and not building a house because we found something already built that we like.
Right.
So but we just got through doing a major remodel on a master bathroom at my house.
Yes, you
And
showed
my
me pictures of that.
my wife came in the other day and she said, I don't think we could have survived building a house. Maybe that's why we didn't do it. Because even just the choices that you have in doing that, and it's the little things that you forget about.
It is, and that is really, I've always heard over the years. I've read this in every book. I hear it in meetings I go to and everything else, that the only people that really can build a true custom house are the ones that really have unlimited pockets. Because as you go forward, you're going to find stuff you want to add, and everything you add on costs more money.
Yeah.
Where if you're dealing with somebody that's building in a subdivision, they're building similar house designs or whatever, they know what the price is going to be.
Yeah.
You're picking from the materials they've already okayed and agreed to,
Right.
and so the price is not going to change when you put this countertop on or choose that cabinet or that interior door or this carpet or this paint color, because it's already included in the price. And that's what makes them sell so fast.
Sure.
Because like you said, you get to pick out the stuff you want, but you already know what the price is going to be.
Exactly.
Versus a true custom build that changes, and an architect and a builder and we do
markups.
this and
Yeah.
markups and and all this stuff that goes into it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it can get really expensive really fast.
It can. The only thing you have to watch out for in that pre-built situation or the pre-sold situation is not to go over those allowances. They're
That's
going
right.
to tell you you got $15 a yard on carpet, and you got this amount on your countertops and this amount on your appliances. And as long as you have the willpower to stay within that,
Yeah, that's right.
It's a good way to do it. Now, if you don't have that,
Yes, if you're out there, you're building a $250,000 house, and you're going through $450,000 houses, looking at what they got, and then you want to put that stuff in your house. Well, guess what? Yours is also going to cost $450,000.
don't do that
when
Don't
you
do
get
that.
done, because that's kind of the way that it works.
Yeah, don't start with the good stuff first. Start in the middle and work backwards. Yeah,
And that's why we always preach about, go see a good lender.
Yep.
And we've got a really good lender that's a sponsor of this show.
We do.
That would be a good one to talk to, but talk to them first to find out what you can actually afford to buy and not guess at it.
Right.
Because nothing is detrimental to the house buying process than thinking you can afford $250 and you go out and look at about a lot of 250s, then get approved,
Yep.
and you can only get approved for 175, because there is going to be a difference in the homes you look at between
Without a doubt.
175 and 250.
Without a doubt.
As an example,
Without
of
a
course.
doubt. Do you find people when they're doing this and kind of picking out the things they want to do, they tend to look at the cooler stuff or the nicer stuff, the more up to date stuff first.
They do.
and that can be a budget buster. I remember back years ago when I was doing houses on a regular basis, I went into an older subdivision with 20, 25-year-old houses, nice subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
But the gentleman had gone in and done some repairs and some updates to the house, and he was very proud of one thing. And he was showing them off to me, and he said, now these were ceiling fans in a vaulted ceiling. There were 3 of them across this big vaulted ceiling room. And he said, these fans are this, and I got them out of Nashville, and they shipped them in here. And he said those fans cost me $600 a piece. He
Wow.
said that ought to add some value to the house, shouldn't it? Well, yes and no. I had to break the news to him. I said, yes, sir, you're right. They are gorgeous, and they go with the decor quite well. But I said, you want me to be honest with you? And he said, yeah. I said, as far as value is concerned, they do the same job as the $49 ones at Walmart do. So you have to be careful with that sort of thing.
You really do. And I think I told the story about a house my father and I listed one time that was absolutely gorgeous. It was a big house, like almost 4,000 square feet, dual staircases. And the gentleman that owned it had spent, I would say it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 on the landscaping. Now, that's a lot of money
That's a
for
lot of
landscaping
money.
that doesn't have a pool attached to it,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And they had taken down sapling trees. He had about a 1 acre lot, but the main thing was he had bulldozed the entire lot and had soil brought in and zoysia grass planted over the entire 1 acre.
Wow.
I mean, it looked like carpet. So from the edge of the driveway, you could literally see grass, roots, soil. I
Yeah.
mean, it looked like a picture out of a
Man.
magazine. It was gorgeous. The problem is every house we've ever sold in the 20 plus years I've been doing real estate, they all had yards.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Granted, it wasn't zoysia grass. It was
Yep.
Bermuda for the most part, maybe some fescue in there every once in a while. But it was very difficult to try to get him to understand that there wasn't going to be a lot of added value to
True.
the fact that he had spent that much money, because he said it only had a 2-car garage on a 4,000 square foot house.
That hurts.
And he said, I almost thought about building another 2-car garage at the end of the driveway. And my dad said, now, if you had done that, he goes,
Then
we
we're
could have
talking.
added some value
Yep.
to the property if you
Without
had done
a
that.
doubt. Without a
And
doubt.
as we've talked about before with Jimmy and with the appraiser we've had on here and everybody else is, if that's your concern about adding value to the property, then you need to get with somebody first before you start doing a lot of changes, because
Yep.
like you said, those $600 ceiling fans, those really don't add any value to the property.
Nope. They do the same
They
thing
don't.
as the little ones
That's
do.
exactly right. They
Yeah.
sure do.
Yeah.
And it's going way above and beyond what your house and or your subdivision will support. That's really, you have to be really careful with that too, because the subdivision that I live in, houses built in the late 70s.
Yep.
They're all pretty much ranch style houses, and there's only 18 in the neighborhood, and we've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 2-story houses. Other than
Right.
that, they're all single stories. And you have to be really careful about not overdoing a house like that you can buy for $150 and putting solid surface countertops in it and high-end appliances and redoing the bathrooms and,
Yep.
really changing it up. And now all of a sudden you've outpriced it over your neighborhood.
True.
You have to be really careful with that, because
Yeah,
it just won't pull it in.
You either have to be careful and not do it, or you have to reconcile yourself to the fact, and somebody will tell you this eventually, when you're putting in all those extras and everything, you either reconcile the fact you're not going to get your money back, or you're going to have to live it out.
That's right.
In other words, enjoy it while you can, and don't expect to get dollar for dollar for it, because it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And honestly, I haven't bought and sold that many houses because I'll just be honest, I don't like to move. Okay.
Right.
I'm pretty much one of those guys that, if I buy a house, I'm
Right.
planning on staying there at least as long as I can.
Yep.
And, but I've never bought a house with the foresight to say, I hope I can sell this and make a profit on it in the future.
Yeah.
That's not why I buy a property.
No,
I buy a
me
house
either.
because it fits what I need at the
At
time
the
when I
time.
buy it.
Absolutely.
And if I can sell it and make a profit, that's great. And if I can't, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a friend of mine who bought a property on a trade. He was a builder. And so he took in a property on a trade, and way bad trade, okay? His wife was actually a realtor in my office at the time.
Yeah.
Never asked her opinion about it or anything. He just did it.
Yeah.
And when it was all over and done, she and I both were like, that was way bad on your part.
Yeah.
Because you way overpaid technically for the house you took in on
Sure.
the trade. And they kept that house for 12 years. Tried to sell it several times. They rented it. And the thing is, I never could get the husband to understand that he had made his money back by renting the property, because it rented for like $1,800. It was
Right.
almost about a 3,500 square foot house. And he rented for $1,800, and it had been rented for like 6 years solid at $1,800 a month for 6 years.
Yeah.
I said, sell it for a lot less than what you paid for it. You've already
Yeah.
made up that money.
You made
Just
your profit,
get rid
yeah.
of the thing, because
Yeah.
you tell me all the time you hate this house. You hate it because you can't get rid of it. And I said, well, sell it for less. Well, I can't do that because it'll make me feel like I lost money. And honestly,
Time to walk away.
it's time to walk away. If you're at
Yeah.
that point right there, it's time just to let the thing go and be done with it. And then you don't have to worry about it anymore after that point.
This show is called The Voice for Real Estate. It's a presentation of Central West Tennessee Association of Realtors. Brent Ward is the CEO, head cheese, chief cook and bottle washer, as they used to say. And
That's what it is on paper, but I don't think the girls I work with, I don't think they believe it.
They don't get it.
I don't think they get it. I don't. I told them while I was on vacation, I said, no, I don't want to come back and find y'all have completely changed how we operate in the office since I've been gone.
Go back. They changed all the passcodes.
Yeah.
You're in big trouble. Yep. Not only is it presented by CWTAR, but it is also sponsored by 4 great sponsors. And,
Yes.
And a prepared spot is a great thing.
Right.
But sometimes when two people just kind of talk about these sponsors, it can have an impact because we know.
Well, we know 'em.
We can say more in 20 seconds sometimes than a 30-second prepared spot can say.
That's right.
So let's start with the mortgage. We mentioned the mortgage earlier.
We did. That's right.
You need to get pre-qualified if you possibly can. And mortgage Leaders Mortgage Services, one of our sponsors at 36 Stonebridge, 215-6678 is their phone number. Getting a mortgage is not a cookie cutter thing.
No,
because
very individualized.
You may have VA eligibility. I may not. There may be an FHA availability of a mortgage there that is better than a conventional at this point in time. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you go in there, tell them where you're looking, tell them the area you're looking in and the price range you're looking in, and then find out what they can do to fit that.
That's right.
Because they can tailor, in a lot of cases, tailor a mortgage now, where it used to be you just took whatever was there on the market.
Yeah, you go in, you knew there was FHA, VA, THDA, and conventional, or cash if you're that lucky.
Yep.
And that's what you had to go in with. But in today's market and the things that are available out there, first-time home buyers, that's a huge market for people with lower incomes.
Yep.
There's still tons of programs, and unfortunately, I don't know that a lot of people realize that there are still a lot of programs for lower income people to be able to purchase a property.
Yeah.
THDA, they offer a program where they will give you $15,000 if it's within a certain area and it's in a certain price range and you qualify. And I know somebody took advantage of that, and they purchased their first home ever at 44 years old, and that they ever had on their own, and they got that $15,000 subsidy that as long as they stay there 10 years, they don't have to pay that $15,000 back. I mean, that's a great program. And they went through Leaders, by the way.
So don't go into the buying or selling process without knowing what you're doing. Leaders Mortgage Services is a great place to start. Once you got that in place, you're going to have it insured. Now, whether you're paying cash for it or whether you've got a mortgage, you need to have it insured.
Yes.
Angie Hooten Hughes, a agent for Allstate Insurance, is the person that we recommend you give a call to. Not only can she help you with your homeowner's insurance and make sure that all of your housing, your interior contents, your she sheds, your he barns, and all this stuff needs to be covered. She knows all the ins and outs of that. She can also bundle that with life insurance, homeowners, automobile insurance, and save you a lot of money on the front end. So call Angie at 901-373-6060 at Allstate Insurance. Home inspections, we mentioned that in passing a while ago. Pete Dubuisson with National Property Inspections is one of the folks in this market that does an outstanding job. He'll cover that house from top to bottom, inside and out, and you will get a written report of all the things that he finds, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And at that point, you can make a decision on whether you want to go forward or whether there needs to be some negotiation done.
That's right. That's a really important part of the buying process. You need to know what you're getting into. It's not that expensive when you're looking at when you're figuring it into the price of the house you're getting ready to buy.
Right.
I mean, it's really a drop in the bucket, and then it kind of gives you a good idea of where you're going when you move in. There's a lot of things people can do on their own. Some people are pretty handy with that type of stuff.
And then there's me.
Hey, I've seen some of your handiwork. You do a pretty good job, Jimmy. No. I saw what you did. I can do it, but I'm just at that point in my life where I just don't want to do it anymore.
I understand. I'm about there myself. Once we get all these other things, all these pieces to the puzzle in place, the legal thing is probably the last thing that's done before the closing. You got to have someone who knows the real estate market, who knows the real estate laws, because you can get burned if you're not careful. We've talked about a situation where you had some title problems,
yes,
or knew of some title problems. Mm-hmm. I saw one not too long ago where it wasn't in this market, where a guy had bought on one of the online services, had bought what he thought was a condo in a developing condo place. I believe it was Arizona, if I remember correctly. We got out there and started to get to the closing, and they did the title work on there, and the realtor called him and said, "We have a problem." He said, "What?" He said, "Well, apparently there's been some shenanigans going on in that neighborhood, and according to the deeds, you just bought a 100-foot by 8-foot strip of ground. There's no house on it."
Oh man!
He bought an easement area between two houses. Had they not found that, he would really have been in trouble.
Oh my goodness! Well, and that's why you need to get a good attorney to do things like that, to do that title search, to find out what it is. Because believe it or not, it wasn't just a few years ago that one of the most I don't know how to word it. One of the most complained about things in the state of Tennessee was the actual sale of the wrong piece of property.
Yeah.
At one point in time. And you think, how in the world does that ever happen? Well, trust me when I can say it happens more frequently than you would think.
Yep.
To where you're going out thinking you're buying this house over here, only to discover that what they just bought was the house across the street.
Yeah.
That happens more frequently, especially when you're dealing with land.
You bought lot 191 instead of 119.
That's exactly right. Or in my case, when my wife and I bought our first house together, I actually had 2 houses. I just didn't know it until the neighbor showed up and said, "Can you sign my deed so I can sell my house?"
That's weird.
Luckily, he knew me, so it wasn't very awkward. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to have a good attorney.
It is.
And their staff that will take care of that title search for you.
Bird & Bird is that law firm. Been in Jackson doing business since 1985. They can do it all. Charles Bird Sr. will carefully check out all the paperwork before you sign your name on it. Make sure that the research has been done, that all the transactions, the sales have been verified. Titles, covenants, restrictions, all of those things enter into you having a clear title to that house and being able to enjoy it and then sell it later when you get ready to. Zoning, of course, deed restrictions, and that's a big one, especially with all these walled communities nowadays.
Yes.
These things they may be more restricted than you think. You can't do this, you can do that. In fact, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours who moved into a walled area, and a certain percentage of the homes in that area, according to him, in the covenants, have to be people with no children.
Yep.
I'd never heard of that before.
That's a pretty you have to be careful with that, but as long as you're following what the law says, then you can do that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty fine line fence right there to do that.
Yeah,
You just
it
can't
is.
up and say that, but
True.
But yeah, the subdivision and covenants are insanely important.
Yes.
If you've got a boat or you got an RV or you want to put up a storage building or you want to put up a fence, anything that's going to take place on the outside of your property. If you want to repaint your house,
Yep.
Anything, put a new roof on it. All of those things a lot of times are covered in your subdivision covenants, and
True.
you better know what they are before
Yep.
you get going.
And they have to be approved by the homeowners association.
That's
or
right.
whoever the governing body is. So be aware of that. Bird & Bird can take care of that for you. 424-7188, and they are our sponsors for the Voice for Real Estate.
That's right. They sure are.
Now,
And,
now we've kind of wandered a little bit.
We
as
have, which we do.
as we're prone to do.
Yes, we are.
What we were going to talk about is getting our houses ready. It's
Yes.
summertime.
Mhm.
I think one of the big things in the summertime that you need to be acutely aware of is your yard, because first impressions are first impressions.
They are first impressions.
and you don't need to let it get a little shaggy. You know,
You need to keep, if you got your house out there on the market ready to sell, then you need to keep that yard freshly trimmed. If you've got to do it, you got to get your kids to do it, or you got to pay somebody to do it.
Yep.
However it is, you need to make sure that yard stays cut, bushes stay trimmed and looking nice, and especially trimmed away from the house. Add some flowering plants out there. It is summertime, and you want your house to look bright, and you want it to be cheerful. And when they pull up in front of your house, you want it to be welcoming
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
show up.
You want them to think, yeah, I could live here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Because usually I don't talk about this until we get closer to Christmas, but 4th of July, right around the corner.
Yeah.
3 days from now or 4 days from now. And so throw up some 4th of July decorations. People like to know, that means something to somebody when they pull up and they see that you've got, even if it's just something hanging on your front door or a flag you've got out front or whatever the case may be. That means a lot to a lot of people when they pull up, because it just means you've taken that extra step and that extra care in your property to actually put up some decorations for whatever that holiday may be.
Yeah.
And with 4th of July coming up, you can't go somewhere and not see a 4th of July decoration
True.
for sale. So there's no reason why you can't pick up something and put it out there.
Make that impression before they ever hit the door.
That's exactly right.
Now they're walking inside. What do we need to be aware of once we get them in the door?
Okay, well, keeping the house clean and tidy, that one's pretty important right there. And I know if you've got small children or animals in your house, that's a little easier said than done. But you are trying to sell the house, so you need to make sure that it stays as clean as possible. Clean up every night before you go to bed, because typically in the mornings everybody's rushing around trying to get ready for work, school, whatever the case may be. And but keep the house clean, keep the beds made. That's pretty important. Even though houses are selling pretty quick, it doesn't take but one time for somebody to walk into a bedroom and the room is in shambles, covers off in the floor, throw pillows are all over the place, clothes laying on the footstool. I mean, you can tell they rush to get out. And I know that's a normal morning for a lot of people, but in the psyche of the buyer that's looking at that property, they're going, well, they're not even taking the time to get the house ready to be shown.
Yeah.
They just took off out the door. So what else have they overlooked over the years because they were too busy doing something else?
Exactly.
And you don't think about these things, but from a buyer, and trust me when I say there is a huge difference between the way a buyer looks at something and the way the seller looks at the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you get into, like, I used to go through this all the time. New carpet, okay? When you got a house, the carpet's 10, 12 years old, it's looking a little worn, and you're selling your house. Do you want to go through the expense of putting new carpet in and you're getting ready to sell it, or do you just want to let the new buyer deal with it, or whatever the case may be?
Right.
Okay, in a seller's mind, you've gone out there, you've priced it, okay, $3,000, I can have new carpet put down, we're all good. In a buyer's mind, that's like $6,000 worth of carpet that needs to be put down. So when you say, I'll give you $3,000, they're like, well, that's only half of what it's going to cost.
Exactly.
Because there's two different mindsets. You're coming at it from two different sides. So that's why it's important to have it looking absolutely as best as you can when you walk out the door in the morning.
Yep, absolutely.
So you're in the house, you're walking through, everything's looking good. You know, check those paint. Check that paint. It's been winter. Everybody's been cooped up all winter long.
Yeah.
You know, if you got kids and animals inside the house, have they had a little too much fun after Christmas and banged up the walls and scratched up the floors or messed up the carpet like we've talked about? You know, take care of these things. You need to get all that stuff done.
Yeah, another thing you might think about too, especially if you have dogs, cats, whatever in the house, or just the normal, smells. Don't be nose blind.
That's right. Those
says.
commercials, the big giant foot or the big dog,
the big huge sock.
And if you can't tell, invite somebody to come to your house.
Come over and give me a sniff.
Yeah, exactly. Come over and smell my house. Tell me what you think. Because I mean, honestly, that's really important, and that pretty much kills it at the front door.
Yeah.
If you walk in the front door with a prospective buyer and the smell of pet urine, just you grab it right off the bat. I'm telling you, a lot of times they'll just turn around and walk out the front door. They won't even continue through the rest of the house. It doesn't matter how good it looks. And and I've had that happen a lot of times where you walk, especially with cats. That's worse than the dogs.
Without a doubt.
Because cat is so strong. So keep those litter pans changed and, you know, make sure that it smells as nice as you can tell.
That's right.
But like you said, invite somebody to come over and give you a smell test if that's what you need.
Get the cat a motel room until the sale's over. That won't work.
Well, that, and be careful with, I tell you another smell a lot of people don't think about either. If you know a showing is going to happen like the next day, don't can pickles the night before. Don't cook, maybe sauerkraut,
or in my case,
fish,
broccoli,
or just anything, because that too will just overtake a house when you walk through the front door. Now, if you want to do something that actually helps in your favor, I'll give you a couple of hints on this one.
I was going to ask this very quickly.
Either A, bake some cookies right before the showing, okay? Because people love the smell of cookies. So some chocolate chip cookies, that goes a long way to grabbing those senses and making people. But there's a little trick you can also do. You can also put a piece of aluminum foil on a baking sheet and put a few drops of vanilla on it. Stick that in the oven as well, too.
Wow.
And that kind of gives you the same sense of baking cookies without actually having to bake cookies.
Right.
And if nothing else, light some candles around the house. Some good smelling candles that people like to smell. Don't be careful with the flowery ones, but
what about music? I've heard people say in the past some low music in the background.
I personally like that, and I always recommended if there was a way, or you didn't mind leaving your stereo or your TV on, playing music channels or whatever. I always recommend that they do that. Just find a good, easy listening station that's just music. A lot of times, no singing, just music, and just leave it on when they come in the house. That's another one of those welcome into my house type deals. When you walk in, it's not just dead silent when you walk in, and the music's playing, and of course if you're not going to be at home all day, can't leave candles burning or anything, but put in some plug-ins or some fresheners or something, but don't overpower it, because some of those things can knock you down, and leave on some lamps.
That was my next question.
That's the next one.
A lot of people nowadays have the under counter lighting in their kitchen, especially if they've gone to a lot of trouble to put in thousands of dollars worth of granite countertops.
Exactly.
And you get that nice glow, and it not only shows off the glow of the light, but it also gives you a good look at those countertops.
And if you got those countertops clean and you got those lights on, it'll show all that. And
be sure the disposal has been run recently also. And if you need to, one of John Allen's tricks to get that smell out of the house is to load it up with ice cubes. And then lemons. Cut lemons into four pieces. Drop the lemons whole in there with the ice cubes, and then run the water and hit it at the same time. You get the stink out of there, and it cleans all the blades and stuff at the same time.
It really does. And I had a technician come out, pest inspector come out. And this time of the year, it's not uncommon for people to get little gnats in their house. Not tons of them, but you'll see one every once in a while, and you're like, where in the heck are these stupid gnats coming from? And he walked over to the garbage disposal, just like you're talking about, and it was pretty new. I mean, it probably hadn't even been there 6-7 months. And it's got that little rubber piece down on the inside, right? And he just stuck his finger under the bottom of that, which I would never do, by the way. At least not unless I'm going to put a glove on first. But he did it, and he said what happens is when you run your disposals and all of that food matter, it blows up to the bottom, and water never really gets to the bottom of that rubber piece.
It doesn't.
And what happens is, he said, the gnats actually live in that.
Yeah.
So they're in the disposal drain, but they're not down in the disposal.
In the water,
they're just right up under the edge, and so the water never gets to them. And so that's a great idea as far as the ice and the lemons go.
Yep.
And so he reminded me, just make sure you keep that area up under there clean all the time. And so that's another good one. So run the disposal, get it clean. If you're seeing stuff like that, if you got ants, that's not uncommon. Doesn't mean you have a dirty house, because ants will find their way in
anywhere
if given the opportunity. And those little boogers are hard to get rid of.
They are.
Ants are hardy.
They are.
And it takes a long time to get rid of ants. Now, I'll tell you something you don't want to get in your house. You're talking about animals a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Do not get fleas in your house.
No.
Oh, my gosh. I've never had fleas in my house, but I had a rental house one time.
Yeah.
My very first rental property I ever owned, a duplex. And the young couple just got married. Won't know if it'd be okay if they had a cat. I said, yeah, sure, that's fine. A cat's fine. Okay. Well, their cat actually ended up being like 6 cats in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh, man.
And when they moved out, I remember I went over there one day, and when they moved out, and I walked through the house just to look to see what kind of shape it was in, the apartment, and I had on light khaki pants. And I walked out the door, and I looked down at my pants, and I was like, what in the world is all over my pants? I had all these little black dots all over me. And when I touched my pants, all those dots disappeared.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, my God, those were fleas. And it took me about 3 months before I could rent that apartment again, because that's how long it took to get rid of those fleas.
Yeah.
And there was no carpet in that house.
Yeah.
None. Not one stitch. It was all hardwood flooring.
Wow.
And those fleas were everywhere. So don't think just because you don't have carpet, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and don't think because you've gotten rid of the animals that the fleas are gone with it. 'Cause
Exactly.
As long as the cat or the dog is in, this is what I was told. We had that situation back years ago when my mother passed away. She had 2 Siamese cats, and we got rid of the cats. And in the process of getting the house ready to sell, nobody was in it for quite some time. And I remember distinctly my brother walking down the hall, and he had on some white athletic socks.
Yeah.
And he came back, and his socks were
Polka
black
dot.
and white. Yeah. And it's awful. It really
is.
Yeah.
And they're hard. That's another one of those things that's just difficult to get rid of. So we kind of strayed a little bit, but
Yeah.
these all are important things that
They
you
are.
need to think about
They
as
are.
you're getting your house ready to go. Oh, wow. We've really gone over on time this morning.
Just
I was
a little
looking
bit. Well, hey,
yeah.
we're among friends.
I know. I just happened to look down. I was like, seems like we've been talking a long time. But anyways, the point is, get your house looking as absolute best you can.
Right.
Making sure that it's clean, it looks good, and the yard, like you said, is really important. And one other thing I'll add is if you've got a swimming pool or you've got some really nice features in your backyard, keep the weeds pulled, keep the bushes trimmed back, keep the lawn furniture where it's supposed to be. Don't leave the blow-ups out all in the pool or just scattered all around the yard. Try to keep those things up and try to get the kids to pick up their toys and keep all that stuff. Just make sure it looks like you would want it to look if you were going to purchase a house someplace else.
Absolutely. Make it inviting and make it a place where they want to come back.
That's right.
Yep.
That's what you're trying to do.
All right. We can wrap it up on that. I appreciate you being back. Glad you had a nice few days away. You look tanned and rested and ready to go. And
yeah, we'll go with that. I got one thing I need to say real quick,
yeah.
Jimmy.
Okay.
I almost forgot because I get fussed at every time I come back. We've actually got a benefit going on at the board office, at CWTAR office, and it's going to be on, if I can find the date on here, August the 9th at 6 p.m., and we have it's going to be a trivia night going on, and this is open to the public, and it's going to benefit the Carl Perkins Child Abuse Center.
Great.
And if you have any interest in that, or you want to know more, I'll have more about it on next Monday's show. But you can give me a call at the board office at 731-668-4907, 731-668-4907. And this is a trivia night, and it's at the CWTAR office benefiting the Child Perkins Child Abuse Center. And we'll have the table prices, and we're going to have a competition for the best decorated table, and we're going with the SEC night. So you're going to decorate your table for your alma mater, your favorite team, or whatever, and we're going to have prizes and everything else. It's going to be catered, so it ought to be a lot of fun. So
should be.
Yeah.
Should be. We'll keep everybody up to date on that. We'll talk about it again next week. This has been The Voice for Real Estate, presentation of CWTAR. And Britt Ward, our host this morning. Thanks to Paul Schulze for making this available on CWTAR, the Facebook page. You can see this on Facebook Live anytime you would like to. And we'll do it again next week at about 10:15. 5 minutes before the 11 o'clock hour, Schofield and McCoy coming up next.